All right. Looks like we are live. Akash, are we live? Okay, assuming we are live. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Einstein Prompt Builder hands-on workshop. This is the first time I think we are streaming it live on YouTube. And welcome, everybody. Welcome, Sagar, Rohit, Tech Lead Consulting, Niket, Merrick. I think Merrick is one of our early birds. He tuned in 20 minutes ago. Ganesh, hey, everyone. It's good to see you all here. And today is an exciting day because we're going to try out Prompt Builder with all of you virtually. And since this is a virtual workshop, I want this to be as interactive as possible because if it was an in-person workshop, we would come to your desktops, we would see what you're doing. If you're stuck somewhere, you would obviously raise your hand and we can see you. But since this is virtual, all we need to do is use the chat window on YouTube. And if you have any questions, if you want me to go faster, you want me to go slower, all of that we can keep talking in the chat. And once we are comfortable, we will go on with the next step. So chat window is really important for the workshop today. So with that, I'll give it a couple of seconds for people to get set up. In the meanwhile, hi everyone. We have people joining from Malaysia as well. Hey Eric. Hey Sagar. So Akash, can we have the slides on and then we can probably get started. So today we are going to get hands-on with Prompt Builder. This is going to be roughly a 30 to 40 minute workshop where in the first 5 to 10 minutes, I will cover a few slides because that is needed for some context setting and to ensure all of us are on the same page. So once we are done with the slides, I'm going to show you a way in which you can sign up to a trial org. And I'll give you a couple of minutes so that all of you can sign up for a trial org. And then we are going to go ahead and start our hands-on workshop. So without further delay, the next slide, which is my introduction. My name is Aditya, for those of you who don't know me. I am working currently as a developer advocate with Salesforce. I've been with the company for about 5 years and in the ecosystem for almost 10 years now. My focus until now was LWC, Apex. You would have seen my videos, blog posts, but now I'm primarily focusing on AI and data cloud. So any questions, any guidance, if you want me to run any sessions in your community groups, then definitely reach out to me and we can work something out. Forward-looking statements, please make all your purchasing decisions based on generally available information and not based on any forward-looking statements that I make today. We are going to be working with a live version of the product. So if you're seeing something, that means it's already there. But if something is in beta, then don't make your decisions based on that. So with that, I would like to introduce all of you to Einstein 1 Studio. So in order to work with generative AI within Salesforce, we have created a bunch of different builders. And 3 of those builders are Copilot Builder, Prompt Builder, and Model Builder. And all these 3 builders together form the Einstein 1 Studio. So this is a new terminology. Einstein 1 Studio is an umbrella for all the different builders that we have for generative AI. So the first builder that we have is Copilot Builder, which is used to build copilots. So we are not going to talk about Copilot a lot today, but you can tune into other workshops that we conduct in the next upcoming few months to learn more about Copilot. The second builder, what we have is called the Prompt Builder, which is what we are going to see today. And Prompt Builder essentially lets you build reusable prompts. We are going to see what it is in the coming slides. And finally, we have the Model Builder. Now, when you talk about AI or generative AI, any prompt that you write, so any input that you want to give to AI is actually going to go and hit an LLM or a large language model. So there are a bunch of models available out there. And as Salesforce, we are offering you a few models out of the box. But if you want to onboard your own large language model onto the platform and you want all of these prompts to go into your custom model and not any of the standard models that we give you, that's where Model Builder is going to come into picture. So that's a very minor introduction about Einstein 1 Studio. But let's dive deep into Prompt Builder. So essentially, first, let's all understand what is a prompt. So a prompt is any input that you give a large language model. So you send in a question, which is a prompt in technical terms. So you send in a prompt, the large language model is going to process that prompt, generate a response, and the response is going to come back to you. Now, these prompts, there is a whole domain right now that is starting called as prompt engineering, which basically tells you that the more detailed and the more accurate your prompt is, the more relevant your response is going to be. To give you a best example, let's say if I want to generate an email, if I type in send an email, you're not giving the LLM any context. Like, who do you want to send the email to? What is the content that you want to include in the email? So there's a lot of context that you need to give to the LLM in order for it to generate an appropriate response for you. Now, you might think that is easy. All you need to do is remember what to write, how to write, and you can create a bunch of guidelines. But when it comes to your end users, not everyone is patient enough or not everyone is technical enough that they can give those detailed prompts in order to get an appropriate response, which is why we have introduced the prompt builder, where you as admins and developers can build pre-created prompt templates, is what we call it. When you build these prompt templates, you are going to use all your knowledge, you're going to use all the data that is available to you in order to make sure the prompt template is as good as possible. So all the end user needs to do is click a button, and this prompt that you have pre-written is going to run in the background and get them a response. So that way you're ensuring your end users can adapt to AI easily instead of them having to write these detailed prompts. So that's in a nutshell what Prompt Builder is about. Um, and there are a bunch of different prompt templates that you can create. So if you want to send an email, you're going to create what we call a sales email template. If you want to generate the value of a field, so let's say you have a bunch of fields on your layout, and instead of somebody filling the value, let's say the description, instead of somebody typing in the description manually, if you want that description to be auto-generated by AI, you can use a field generation prompt template. The third most common use case that we have is record summaries. Let's say if somebody is looking at a case object and you quickly want a summary of what the case is and what are the comments on the case, what is the back and forth interaction going on the feed items, things like that, you would create a record summary template. Finally, moving on to the flex template type, like the name indicates, it is pretty much flexible. So you create this template and you can literally use it anywhere. You want to call it from flows, you want to call it from Apex, it is up to you. Now, talking about where you can use these prompt templates, depending on the prompt template type, there are certain places that you can use it in. For example, if you take sales email template, while you can call it from flows, you can call it from REST API, Apex, all of that is there, but there are specialized places where you can call these specialized prompt templates from. For example, the sales email, you can call it from the email composer. So email composer is already an out-of-the-box feature. You click on the email quick action, it shows up a composer. Any sales email prompt templates will be visible there. If it's a field generation, it is going to be visible next to a field, which is what we are going to be building today. Similarly, flex template and record summaries, there is no specific place where you can access it from other than Copilot actions. But since we are not talking about Copilot actions, let's just stick to field generation for today. If you want a more detailed description into all of these, we are also in the plan of releasing blog posts and more videos on YouTube. So we'll dive into each and every one of these prompt template types. But for today, field generation is what we'll look at. Now, that is the basic context setting that I wanted to do. Now, with this information, let's all get hands-on because that's the best way to learn how all of this comes together. So for that, I need all of you to sign up for trial orgs. And here is how you do it. So this is a specialized trial org that we are giving you just for this workshop. And this is going to be valid for around 5 days. So even after this workshop is done, you can go back, play around with it. And I'm going to tell you what else you can do I'll give you an idea, and then maybe you can go and try it out and build your own use cases on top of the trilogues that we are giving you. So this is the form link. Open this link bit.ly/AI data hands-on, and it asks you for an event code. So put in this code. I'll also put these two details in the chat. So this is 9RM, this is O, not 0. So this is O6D. I'll put this in the chat, but I'll give you a couple of minutes for all of you to sign on. And once you are done, you will be shown credentials. You'll be shown a username and password and a set of instructions. So once all of you come to that screen, which shows you the username and password, just put it on the chat window that created credentials or whatever you want to call it. Just let me know that you've created a trial arc. And in the meanwhile, I'll answer a few questions that you have. Yes, I'll cover all of the options. First, let's get to the workshop. And then if you want to stay on, we can have conversations. So I'll keep the stream open. We can stay back and have different conversations. This is not like a fixed agenda that we have. I want to keep this as free flowing as possible. Let me put link in the meanwhile. So I've put the link and the event code in the chat section. So once all of you have filled up the form and you get the credentials, just let me know in the chat window. Okay, Merrick says he's in, which is excellent. So in the meanwhile, there is a question, Copilot action is common for all. Yes, basically any prompt template that you create can be called from Copilot as well, which is where you create a Copilot action that invokes a prompt template. So that's always there. You can always invoke your prompt templates from Apex Flow REST API. There are these specialized places like I showed you, which are available for a few kinds of prompt templates. All right, 3 people say they are in. Everybody else, please let me know. More importantly, let me know if you are not in and how much more time you need, because I can wait for a reasonable amount of time. Okay, Esther is in, Kamal is in. All right. So we'll keep the ticker that is going on. It will have the link to sign on, and it's also there in the chat. So let me go ahead and show you a few more slides. So before we log into the org, a little bit of a context setting. So once you log into the org, you will be seeing a sample application called Coral Cloud Resorts. So if you are familiar with our sample apps like Dreamhouse, eBikes, LWC recipes, each of those are meant for a specific purpose. In our case, Coral Cloud Resorts is a sample app that we have created, and in the process of updating it, essentially what we want this sample app to represent is all of our AI offerings that we have. So that's the name of the sample app called Coral Cloud Resorts. It, like the name indicates, it's a resort where people can go and chill. So this is the data model that we have that is inside the org. The reason knowing the data model is important is because this is new, and you're going to be building prompt templates based on this data model. So let's give 2 minutes to understand this data model. So first and foremost, we are going to have the contact object, which is going to store the details of a person visiting the resort. And if they want to visit the resort, they will have to create a reservation, and that reservation is what is stored in the reservation object. When you check into a hotel or a resort, you're going to have a check-in date and check-out date. So both of those are captured on the reservation object. Now, guest event is something that we are not going to use today, so I won't dive deep into this. But what we are going to use today are these three objects. Not all the three, but it's good to know. Now, this is not a normal resort. Okay, this resort is very fancy and it offers a lot of experiences to all of its residents. So let's say I'm checking into the resort and I ask the receptionist on what do you have at your resort. Let's say they offer me Zumba classes, yoga classes, there is maybe a chess marathon going on, or maybe there is scuba diving classes. So there are a lot of these activities that the resort offers. And all of those we store in a custom object called experience. So these are all the experiences that Coral Cloud Resort offers. Now, experience instance is going to be an instance of this experience. So the experience is only going to say that this resort offers yoga classes. But the instance is going to tell you that on what date and on what time these yoga classes are available. So it's going to be a child object. And finally, you have your experience booking, which is nothing but a junction object between your contact and experience instance, which represents a booking of a particular slot. So let's say if you check in and you tell them that I want to go to this yoga class starting at 10 a.m. tomorrow, we'll create one experience booking instance for you. So that's at a very high level, the data model, the contact that stores the details of a person, and experiences that store all the different activities that happen. Now, let's actually go ahead and log into the org. So all of you are going to be seeing this by now. You have your username and password. And most importantly, what you're also going to have is a link here called hands-on instructions. So open this up and keep this handy. We are not going to be using this a lot because when I show you something, you can just follow me and take those same steps. This will just act as a supplemental material in case you get stuck somewhere, or if I need you to copy paste something, then you can refer to this hands-on material. So it's available in the hands-on instructions part, which I'm also going to go ahead and ping you. So that's the link to the hands-on instructions. Don't spend time reading it now because I'm going to walk you through the whole thing. You can just follow me and all the steps that I take. So these are the credentials. Hope all of you have logged in. Just go to login.salesforce.com, put in the username and password, and you're going to come to this page. So click on the contacts tab, and there you're going to see a bunch of different contacts. So you can always switch to the all contacts list view or search. Basically, today we are going to be working with a contact called Sofia Rodriguez. So just type in Sofia and open up the contact record. So nothing fancy here. The reason I asked you to open up the contact record is because of these three fields. So on the contact record, you will see interest 1, interest 2, interest 3. So whenever a person has registered, whenever you create a contact, you're also going to capture what are the activities that they're interested in. So for example, Sophia is interested in adventure activities, beaches, and fitness. So those are the three interests we have captured. And then we have a bunch of different experiences. So this is the custom object that I was talking about. So if you go to experiences and click all, you can see all the different experiences that Coral Clouds offers. And if you see the type field here, it matches the interests of what a contact can choose. So let's say if a contact is interested, one of their interests is fitness and exercise. There are a bunch of different experiences that Coral Clouds offers, which is of type fitness and exercise. So that's important to know, where on the contact, we are going to store these fields as interest 1, 2, and 3, depending on what they show interest in. And there are a bunch of different experiences that Coral Cloud offers. Now, why is understanding both of these important is because of the scenario that we are going to build today. So today, back on the contact object, there is a field called guest summary. And if you click on edit, you can see it is a normal text area field. What we want to do now is fill in this field with a summary of all the interests the guest has, and also include some of the activities that align to the guest's interests. So the reason, the business use case here being, let's say the customer is now coming to check in, and the check in staff is going to look at their contact record and say, look at the summary and say, okay, hey Sophia, you're interested in beaches, you're interested in fitness, and I can see here that we have all of these activities that are available for you to try out when you check in. So that's a very simple business use case for which we are going to be generating the value of this particular field. Hope everybody is with me so far. Any questions? Okay, so I see no questions. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the first few steps. If you get stuck somewhere, please don't hesitate to let me know in the chat, because I can always wait. This is a new technology, so I want to ensure all of you are familiar with it. So first and foremost, let's all go to setup and search for generative AI. So let's go to setup, search for generative AI, and inside that you're going to see an option called Einstein setup. So this is a one-time thing that you need to do, where you need to turn on Einstein. So this will enable the generative AI capabilities within your org. So once, I'll give you 10 more seconds to do this. It's very simple. Go to setup, search for generative AI, click on Einstein setup, and turn on Einstein. Now, once you've turned it on, you need to refresh your pages, because a few features will get enabled. And for those features to show up in the setup, you need to refresh your pages. So once you turn on Einstein, refresh your pages and search for prompt builder. And this time you will see prompt builder comes up. It shows up under the generative AI section itself. So let's just click prompt builder. Again, to recap, search for generative AI, enable Einstein through the Einstein setup menu, refresh your pages, and then you should be able to find prompt builder. If you're not able to find prompt builder, let me know. Okay, by the looks of it, nobody has any issues. Okay, let me go ahead to the next step. So let's all go ahead and create a new prompt template. Just click the new button on the top and you'll be shown this pop-up. So here you can see the different types of prompt templates you can create. Here you can see field generation, flex, record summary. Now the reason sales email is not showing up here is because you need to enable Einstein for sales as a feature for sales emails to be enabled. I can show all of that to you if needed towards the end. But for now, since we need field generation, we'll just select field generation. We'll give the prompt template a name. You can give it any name you want. Let me give guest interest summary. It's up to you what name you want to give. Now let's select the object on which this prompt template should work. Now, because this is a field generation prompt template, it has to be attached to a particular field. And in our use case, we are attaching it to the guest user summary field on the contact object. So first we'll select the contact object, and from the fields, let's select the guest summary field. So I'll give it a couple of seconds again. Click on the new prompt template button, choose field generation, give it whatever name you want, and choose the contact object and choose the guest summary field, because that's a field we need to be working with. And let's click next. And what it's going to show up is this canvas where you can type in whatever is your prompt template. And whenever you're creating your prompt template, I'm assuming all of you have created email templates before. So whenever you type something, it's not just static text, but you can include dynamic values as well. And those dynamic values will be added as merge fields. And in our use case, you can add merge fields from any of these. Because we are working with a contact object, you can add any of the fields from the contact, or you can even go ahead and add related list information. So here you can see the activities, opportunities, cases, and so on. So all of this is available to you as merge fields. including the current user details, current organization details. So there are a bunch of fields that you have access to. Now, for our use case, the guest interest summary must show a summary of all the interests that they have. So if you remember on the contact, there are three fields, the interest one, interest two, interest three. We will try to summarize that information first. It's not the final step, but the first step. So for that, I need you to go to the workbook that I shared and scroll a little bit down. And in point number 5, you will find a template. So just copy that and paste it into your prompt template. Now, again, the link to this workbook is there in the chat. So just go to this link, scroll a little bit down, and copy this particular prompt template. Now, the reason I'm asking you to copy this is it saves a lot of time. And it also shows you how detailed a prompt template has to be. I cannot just write and summarize the interest based on these three fields. I have to include some instructions on who you are, like you're a customer success manager for this resort. And these are the instructions I'm giving you. Use straightforward language, active voice, don't use filler words. So you get the idea of how detailed the prompt has to be. And these are merge fields. So I could obviously go ahead and add one more. I say contact and maybe created date, and it gets added. So nothing much fancy there. Once you copy paste, you're going to come up to something that looks like this. I will again give it a couple of seconds. Anybody who has not completed this step, please go ahead and put it on the chat. So I know I'll have to wait. If not, I will move on. Anybody? Okay. How many of you have completed this step where you have copied the prompt template and pasted it here? Okay, nobody is chatting with me. Either you're all trying it out on your own. Okay. Okay, very good. Done. So once you have created this prompt template, as you can see, it's a very basic prompt template. We have done nothing here. We've included a few merge fields. Now, on the right-hand side, you can see the different model types. So here is where the model builder piece of it comes in, where we give you a bunch of standard model types, where you can see we have OpenAI, GPT 3.5, GPT 4, then we have Azure as well, different kinds of models that we are giving you out of the box. But if you have created a custom model and plugged it in using the model builder, you'll be able to find that in the custom models, and you can choose the custom models that you have given. For now, let's keep the standard settings and save this prompt template. Now, once you save the prompt template, you can actually try it out. So in the preview section at the bottom, you can search for a record. In our case, let's search for Sophia and click on preview. Once you do that, what you can see on the left-hand side is the resolution of your prompt and what is the response. So again, for those of you who are still doing it, save the prompt template. In the preview section, search for a contact record. In our case, it is Sophia, and click on preview. Now, you might think this playground is just there because you can see how your prompt template is working, which is true. But the reason this becomes more important is the best practices that you have to follow. Now, we are dealing with a large language model. It's not an Apex code that every time you give a request, it gives you the same response. Since it is generative AI, each time you send in your prompt, it treats it as a new request, and the response that comes back to you can vary slightly. Now, in real scenarios, in production scenarios, you do not want your response to vary very drastically. Now, when will your responses vary drastically? It happens when your prompt is not correct, in the sense that you're not giving enough information in the prompt, or you're not giving it enough data. If either of those happen, then each time the request goes out, it can come up with a new response. So assume the prompt template is only saying summarize interests without any data. Each time you send in a request, the LLM can hallucinate and generate random interests of its own, which is not what we want. So the best practice that we give you is each time you create a prompt template, try it out at least 10 to 15 times with different kinds of records. Even if it is the same record, send in the request a couple of times. Don't just send it once and say, okay, this is coming back good. Send it a couple of times and ensure the changes that are coming back are not drastic. Minor changes are acceptable, but then ensure it is not drastic. Now, that is the reason we have given you this preview to ensure you are creating a prompt template that gives you consistent results across multiple invocations. So that's pretty much the basic setup. This is a basic prompt template. We'll go ahead and create a more complex one in just a bit. Now, once you save this template, you need to activate it, which is the most important step. Just like flows, if you forget to activate a prompt template, it doesn't show up in places where you want it to. So activate the template. Now, again, to recap, we have created a prompt template, put in a bunch of merge fields, tested out our prompt template using this section, and we have activated the prompt template. Now, we need that back in the detail page of the contact. We need that to show up in this field. Like now this field has to know that it has to leverage this particular prompt template in order to generate the value. So for that, let's all go back to the contact detail page and click on edit page. Essentially, let's go to the app builder.
Hey Aditya, I think Rafi is facing some issue. Like there is an internal error.
Okay,
Just
that's interesting.
ask your admin for help.
Uh, yeah, where is it exactly that you're getting this error? At what point? Okay. Yeah, in the end, I will show you the Einstein for sales use case also. Um, but Rafi, I'll wait for you to tell me where you're getting the error. If you're getting the error, perhaps you can try creating a new prompt template. Oh, in the contact record to trigger this prompt. So you've gone ahead further. I will show that. If I find the same error, we will all troubleshoot together. All right. What is the next step is all of us need to go ahead to this app builder, click on the guest summary field for which we have created the prompt template. And in order to do this, by the way, if you have noticed, dynamic forms has been enabled. This is not your standard page layouts. Dynamic forms is being used. So select the field and select the prompt template that we have just created and click on save. So to recap, go to the app builder for the contact detail page, click on guest summary, and on the right hand side, you should be able to see an Einstein generative AI section. Choose the prompt template that you have created and click on save. Now, once that happens, all of us can go back to the contact detail page, and now you can see the edit button looks a little different, which means this field now has generative AI capabilities. Click on edit, and let's click on this button that shows up beside the field. So this is one of those specialized places where you can call this template. If it's a field generation template, you can call it from this button. So let's click that button, and I see the same error as all of you. Okay, this generally happens if there is something wrong in the backend. This is not something that we can control. It's very unfortunate that this happened here. Ideally, this is going to work. The field value is going to show up. For this workshop, like for the next half an hour, let's not do anything here. I will go back and check what's wrong. And then because the org is available for 5 more days, you can try it out. The good thing is we are at least getting to see it here. So we can still go ahead with our workshop. But what is going to happen realistically is the moment you click on that button, it's going to run your prompt in the background. It's not going to show you the resolution and all. It's just going to say analyzing your request, and then it's going to come up with whatever response you have seen. um, I will try and check internally what's wrong, but that's what is going to happen. I will get this fixed. Now, because that is not working, I can tell you what else you can do here, um, which again, you can stay back and we can have conversations. So right now I'm invoking this prompt template manually. So if I click this button, only then the prompt template is being invoked. But let's assume what if I want to do this in an automated fashion? What if I want the value of this field to be automatically filled in whenever the contact record is updated? So that's something that you can do with flows. And the reason you can do it with flows is I told you the prompt template that you create can be invoked from a flow or Apex. So I'll just show you a demo. If you want, you can follow along with me or not. So let's go to flows. And in case you want to invoke the prompt template on the change of a record, obviously this part is not changing where you'll have to create a record triggered flow. So we'll go ahead, create a new record triggered flow. And this record triggered flow is obviously going to be based on the contact object. And I'll configure the trigger to fire whenever a record is created or updated. And just because this is a small demo, not a part of the workshop, I'm going to leave the conditions as it is without worrying about the business use case. And once I configure the start element of my record triggered flow, I can go ahead and add a new action. So in this action, if you scroll down, you can see a category called prompt template. And in this, you can actually see all the prompt templates that are activated currently. So every time you create a prompt template, it shows up as an action within your flow. So here you can select the prompt template, and the input is going to be a related entity. Now, the reason it's a related entity is whenever you create a prompt template, the input can be dynamic. For example, now I created a prompt template for the contact object, but in the future, I want to create something for the lead or custom objects. So this is going to be kind of like your, you have the who ID and what ID on the task, right? Polymorphic IDs. That's how this is. So each time you create a prompt template of type field generation, you'll have to send in a related entity. In this case, it's going to be the contact record. So you're going to have to send in the entire contact record. And the output of a prompt template is going to be your prompt response. So this is the action that is fired. You're sending the record as an input. And then the output is going to be whatever is the text that is going to come back as an output from your prompt template. Now, what you want to do with that output is totally up to you. So I can just put in a name, fire prompt template, and done. So now I can use that to, let's say, update the triggering record. Let's say the guest user summary has to be the output of my prompt template, which is output from prompt template dot prompt response. So what I'm essentially doing here is whenever a record is created or updated, I'm firing the prompt template by sending in the contact as an input, and I'm getting the response out from this action and assigning it to this particular field. Now I can assign it to the guest summary field, or I can assign it to any other field I want. So you have that flexibility right here. So this is one thing that I wanted to show you on how you can actually automatically invoke this prompt template to set the value of a field. Since the end user experience is still not working, let's not go ahead with this. Let me save it as a draft. After this workshop is done, all of you can go back and try it out. Auto update summary on save. This is what I'll call it right now. Um, yeah, let's okay, update summary. So this is just something that I wanted to show you in terms of what is possible, so you can go back and explore. Now, the next thing I want to show you, so this was meant to be like a 30-minute workshop roughly, and we are almost at time, so feel free to drop off if you want. But if you want to continue, I just want to show you one more thing. And after that, you can go back and try it all on your own. So in our use case, what we have seen so far is back in, yeah, back in this tab, we are including only merge fields, but this doesn't really make sense. Like, I can already see these three values on the contact detail page. I don't need a summary of that. What I need a summary of is what are the activities that the resort offers that align to the interests of the customer. So that's the data I want to be included in my summary. So that is something that I'll go ahead and add to my prompt template now. Now, I'm trying to get the data. If you remember, the experiences that align with the guest interests are stored in the experience custom object. And that's not something that is available to me as a resource. So what I can do is I can either create an Apex class that fetches these details, or I can create a flow that fetches these details and puts it into my prompt template. So all of us, I think you can follow me on this step because I can actually see the response coming in here. So let's all do it together, where we are going to create a flow that is going to get us all the experiences that the resort offers that match the interests of a particular contact. So in order to do that, let's all go to flows and let's select a new flow. Now here, all of us will have to select the template triggered prompt flow. Now the reason this is coming here is because we have enabled generative AI and prompt builder is available to us. This is a new type of flow that comes available to you. Now, what is the speciality of a template triggered prompt flow? So for example, if you take any of the other flows that you have, let's say a record triggered flow, this flow is triggered whenever a record is updated. In a very similar way, a template triggered from prompt flow is invoked whenever your prompt template runs. Now you'll understand that once you add the flow into this prompt template. So essentially assume this prompt template has a flow. Whenever this template runs, it's going to go ahead and invoke that flow. And once the flow is invoked, the flow will run and the flow comes back with a response which is going to be embedded right inside your prompt template. So if it's confusing, let me again explain it. For example, here you have a merge field. Here I say contact.interest1. Once this prompt template runs, this is going to be replaced with the actual value. In a similar way, if you embed a flow just like this inside your prompt template, the flow is going to run and the output of the flow is going to be embedded inside your prompt template. So if a flow has to run, you'll have to create a flow of type template triggered prompt flow. So that's all there is. So let's go ahead and click create. And here as well, you'll have to choose what is the type of prompt template that this flow becomes available in. In our use case, is the field generation prompt template. So depending on the availability here, you will be able to add it to the respective prompt templates. So again, recap, create a new flow of type template triggered prompt flow, choose the field generation capability type, and in the inputs, let's choose the input which is the contact object. Because I want to use this flow inside my prompt template, which relies on the contact object. So the input of this flow is going to be a contact object. That is what I have set here. Any questions so far? The related entity should always be an object. Yes, it should be an object. You can't set it to a field. The flow will train the model. Not really. I'm going to show you how this works. Um, so just follow my lead and we will all see that. Merrick, I see that you have debugged this and it actually worked. Can you let me know what are the steps you've taken for the model to come? And also, Ishan, how do you know which model is more suitable to your requirement? It is trial and error, I would say. Try out with a bunch of different models, and whatever is the model that is best suited for your particular type of prompt, you can go ahead with that, because each model is capable of different things. Like GPT 3.5 is trained on some parameters, GPT 4 is trained on some 100 billion parameters. So depending on what kind you want to use, you can go ahead for that. So once you run this flow, you can actually, let's go ahead and run this flow. Now, what I want to do is, once this flow gets triggered, I want to query all the guest experiences that match the interests of the contact. So I'm going to add in a new get records, which is something all of us are using. So nothing much fancy here. Get experience records. And I want to get the records of type experience underscore underscore C. And this time I want to filter the experiences. So for example, I have a bunch of experiences and there is a type field with a bunch of different values. I want to only get the experiences where the type matches one of the contact's interests. So either type is equal to interest 1, or type is equal to interest 2, or type is equal to interest 3. Only if a particular experience matches any of the contact interests, I want to get that particular value. Again, this is for my business use case. Your use case can be up to you on what data that you want to get. So here I'll choose the condition as or, and type equals our input. So for example, we have the dollar input global variable, which is going to be the input of this template triggered prompt flow. So let's choose input, and the related entity, if you remember, there is a related entity for every prompt. So the related entity in this case is a contact, and all your different contact fields are going to show up. So I'll select interest 1. So the type equals interest 1 of the related entity. So similarly, I'll add 2 more conditions, one for each interest. So again, where type equals dollar input, related entity, and interest 2 underscore underscore C. Then again, type equals dollar input, related entity, interest 3 underscore underscore C. So this is the data that I'm getting. Again, this can change based on your business use case, not very much important here. So I'm getting all the experience records. So most importantly, let me choose all records, because I don't want to get the first record. I want to get all the experiences that match the interests. So now the flow gets triggered. I have retrieved all of the interests from Salesforce. Now, how do I send this information to the prompt template? So for that, you'll have to use a new element called add prompt instructions. So add prompt instructions as an element is a text element, which you can use to store any text, which can include your merge fields, which can include static text, whatever you want. And you can add any number of prompt instruction elements that you want inside your flow. Now, once the template triggered flow runs, it's going to look at all the different prompt instructions you have added. It's going to concatenate all of those text elements together, and that is going to be the output of this particular flow. Now, let me repeat. Add prompt instructions is a text element. You can add any number of elements throughout your flow. Once your flow runs, it's going to concatenate all the different prompt instruction elements, and the output of your flow is going to be a concatenation of all the different text that you have put in here. And that text is embedded into your prompt template. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, because I want to get all the different experience records, let me put in a loop. So I'm going to iterate over each experience records. So iterate over all the get experiences records, first item to last item, that is fine. And within the loop, for every experience record that is retrieved, I want to add it to the prompt. So I'll just add a prompt instruction and say add experience name to prompt. And in here, from the resource, I'm going to look at the loop, which is the current experience, and add the name of the experience. So I don't know if it's a little bit confusing, but all we are doing here is getting the experience records, looping over it, and we are adding the name of every experience to the prompt instruction. So once this flow runs, the output is of the flow is going to be a concatenated string of all the different experience names. So that's going to be the output of this flow. So let me now click on save and see if you have any questions. And if you are following me, not following me, you want me to repeat, let me know in the chat window. Prompt builder returning response. And when I call prompt builder through Apex on Copilot, it's giving error. Where can I check the logs? Okay, so typically your Apex classes run as the platform integration user. So if you want to check the debug logs, you'll have to set a log for the platform integration user. And then you can do that. So let me give a name to this flow, which is going to be get related experiences. And save and activate my flow. Now that the flow is activated, I can go back to my prompt template, basically refresh the prompt template because the resources have to be pulled. So refresh the page, and now in the resources you can see flows. Until now you could only see these three. Now I can see flows and the get related experiences flow.
Aditya, there are a couple of questions
Okay.
about the flow and on the loop. Can you just
Oh
check
yeah,
that?
I can repeat from the loop again. That's perfect. That's the input I was expecting. So what we have done here is we've gotten the get records. I can actually delete all these elements again and show it to you. So those of you who haven't followed, just look at the demo here. So I have gotten all the records. So a get records element with a bunch of conditions. In the interest of time, if you want to skip all the conditions, that's also okay. Just try to get the experience records. And how many records to store? Select all records. Now, once you do that, you can actually add a new element. And what we are going to do here is we are going to loop over each and every experience record. Now, again, the reason we are doing this is in my prompt template, I need to see a list of all the experiences that match a contact's interest. So the output of the flow has to be a list of all the experience names. Now I have the list of experience records here, but I need a list of names to be added to the prompt instructions. So the add prompt instructions element is the one that is going to store the text that is going to be returned as an output from this particular prompt, from this particular flow. So what I can do here, after I get my records, I will put in a loop. I'll go to name the loop. Let me just put the name as iterate. And I can loop through a collection variable. So whenever I get a list of records, it's going to be stored automatically in a collection variable. So all I need to do is select that. So the output of the get experience records is what I'm going to be selecting because I need to loop over all these different experiences that I query. Now within the loop, I can add a new prompt instruction element. So essentially what I'm trying to do here is within the loop, I want to add the name of each and every experience that comes into this loop. So I'll give the prompt instruction a name here, add experience name, for example. I'm not going to correct that spelling. And this is the prompt instruction. So this is the text that is going to be returned from the flow after this flow runs. So this text here has to be the name of the experience record. So here, if you look at the resources, there are a bunch of different resources. So this is our collection variable, which is a list of all the experiences. But there is a record single variable called current item from loop. So each time you're iterating over these particular set of records, in the loop, you're going to be dealing with a single experience record. Because if you're looping on a list, each time the loop iterates, it gets one experience record. And we need the name of that particular experience record. So what we do is inside the loop, we go ahead, go to the current item from loop, and we put in the name of that item. In our case, it's the experience. So clear, or any more questions? Okay. Yeah, most important point is these orgs expire in 5 days. These are not like dev orgs that are there forever or for 30 days. Weird, you cannot see it. Cannot see which part. That is strange. This is like a standard template triggered flow. Okay, so if it is clear, let's go ahead and save. All of you can save. I'm going to save it as a new version because I have just shown you how to update it. Most importantly, again, the important step after you save is to activate the flow. If you forget to activate, the flow won't show up. So activate it. Go back and refresh your pages, because if flows has to show up here, you'll have to refresh. So let's all go ahead and refresh your prompt template, and let's embed the flow. So what I'm going to do is I'll embed it inside the instructions, but I'll give it some more context. I will just type in saying, here are the different experiences offered by Coral Clouds Resort that match the interests of the contact. See, this you can put in whatever you want. Let me paste it into the chat, but you get the idea. You can put in whatever text you want. In the end, you're just telling the LLM that here are the different experiences of the contact, and here is where you're going to embed the flow. So from resources, choose flows. The flow that you have just activated, most important, activated, is going to come up here. And as you can see, it shows up in red. Once you have that, save the prompt template also as a new version. And let's now try out Sophia's record again. So I'll wait for all of you to complete the step. But what essentially I have done is I've updated this prompt template, have given it more instructions by saying here are the different experiences that match the interests of this contact. And I've embedded the flow by using the resource picker. And if you see in the resolution, here is where I think it will become super clear on how it works. So until here is the text that I have written. Here are the different experiences offered by Coral Cloud Resorts that match the interests of the contact. And then I have the flow. But what you see actually is a list of all the different experiences has been embedded. The reason for that, this flow has run. And when the flow has run, it has gotten all the elements. It has gone through a loop of all of the elements, and it has added the names to prompt instructions. So the output of this flow is going to be a list of concatenated string of all of these different prompt instructions, which is what you see here. And then now you'll see a better summary of all of this. Now, this is the second step. As you've seen, it's slightly complex flow, so we have taken more time. But since the org is available to all of you, I will give you some homework. And once you've done that, post it on LinkedIn or on any social media platform. Basically, if you don't know, we've started running this campaign called Built with Einstein, where we want you to post what you have built using prompt templates. So, one use case that I'll give you is right now I'm only getting all the related experiences, but I don't want this. What I want is to know what the contact or what the person can actually go ahead and register for. Um, so if you remember from experiences, there is a relationship to experience instances, which actually shows you the time slot of each and every experience. So what I want all of you to go back and do is create a flow that gets these experience instances. So if a contact is interested in, let's say, wine tasting, I want the summary to include, we see that you're interested in wine tasting. The next wine tasting slot we have available is on this date and on this time. So that's what I want you to do. And how can you find the dates? So, like, these experiences are available throughout the year. But then, how will you know what is the date that is next available to them? It's based on their check in date. And if you remember from the slides earlier, a contact has a list of reservations where you will get to know their check in date. And based on that, I want you to go ahead and query all the experience instances that match the contact interests and whose date and time is in between their check-in date and checkout date. So that's a really complex use case, but most likely that's going to be the use case when you go ahead and implement it a live customer. So let me repeat, your homework is going to be update this prompt template in order to get the list of available instances which fall between the check-in and checkout date of a particular contact and add that to the summary. So once you post your video or a screenshot of your implementation, what I need to see here is based on the guest interests, they are keen on wine tasting, for example, and the next available wine tasting slot during their check-in period is this. So that's really going to add business value. So if a receptionist is looking at it, they can actually look at it and say, if you want, we can book you in right now. So that's the value add, which I want you to all go and try out. Now, that's pretty much what I have to offer today in workshops. And I'm happy to answer any questions. If not, all of you can drop off. We can take this offline, but this is a nice chat. I wanted to show you what we have in detail. All right. Looks like there are no more questions. The send email template. Okay. Um, yeah, we are actually out of time. So if you want, you can drop off. I will just show you a few setup based on the questions that I'm getting. Still getting the internal error. Yes, I will go ahead and see what is wrong. But then, um, yeah, I will let you know what is wrong with it. But what you need to do to get sales emails enabled is from setup, you need to go ahead and type in Einstein for sales. And then turn on sales emails. That's all you need to do. So it's already there up on the screen. Einstein for sales, turn on sales emails, and yeah, there you go. So thank you all for joining in. We are running a lot more of these workshops at community groups, at partners, and so on and so forth. Keep an eye out for all the announcements. There's a lot of workshops. So if you just stay tuned to our social channels, you will get to know when is the next workshop we are running, and you can tune in. Make sure if you like this presentation and workshop, spread the message to your friends as well, and let them join in the coming workshops. So with that, I would like to say thank you for your time. We've gone over a little bit, but if you found it helpful, that is good. If not, also you can let me know in the chat. But also let us know what else you would like to see, because we want to enable all of you to work on AI. So let us know in the chat, and have a nice rest of the day. And since we are almost at the weekend for people in other time zones, have a great weekend and see you all soon in another stream.